I never thought silence could be so loud. That night, it filled the entire apartment like a fog you couldn't breathe through. It started at Ryan's birthday party. A Friday night, crowded bar, cheap neon lights, and music so loud it made conversation impossible. Madison, my girlfriend of 3 years, was already in full social mode, laughing, dancing, ordering shots like it was college again. I wasn't trying to be the buzzkill. I was just tired. Long week, long hours. I wanted to show up, celebrate, then head home. Simple. But somewhere between her third shot and my first soda, I saw her change. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She was performing. For the crowd, for Instagram, for everyone but me. When she jumped on a bar stool, shouting lyrics to some throwback song, I reached for her arm, trying to steady her. She pulled away. "Don't be like that, Ethan," she said, loud enough for everyone around to hear. "You're ruining the fun." The laughter that followed stung more than I expected. I smiled to hide the burn, but something in me shut down right there. I stayed another 15 minutes, pretending to laugh, pretending to care. Then I slipped out quietly. No scene, no fight. Just the quiet decision to remove myself from a party I clearly wasn't invited to anymore. The cold air outside felt better than the fake warmth inside. I walked home, phone buzzing every few minutes, texts from friends, group photos, memes. Not one from her. By the time I reached the apartment, I knew I wouldn't see her until morning. So I showered, sat on the couch, and thought about how many times fun had become an excuse for disrespect. Because it wasn't the first time. A month ago, it was a karaoke night. I told her I wasn't comfortable with the way some guy had his hands around her waist during a duet. "Relax, Ethan," she'd said. "It's just a song." 2 weeks later, it was another party. Another line I wasn't supposed to cross, another version of "you're ruining the fun." At some point, fun stopped being something we shared and became something she defended from me, as if I were the enemy of her freedom. That night, I turned my phone off. Not to be dramatic, not to punish her, just to find a moment where I didn't have to keep forgiving the same disrespect packaged as jokes. I made some coffee, watched the city lights flicker, and thought about the man I used to be before I started apologizing for expecting basic respect. Around midnight, the key turned in the door. I didn't move. Madison stumbled in, heels in one hand, phone in the other. She saw me on the couch, startled for a second, then laughed. "Oh my God, you came home early. You're seriously mad about that?" "No," I said quietly. "I'm tired of pretending I'm not." She rolled her eyes, the universal gesture for "you're overreacting." "Ethan, you always make everything so heavy." "It was just a joke." "It's always a joke," I said, "until it's not funny anymore." She sighed, dropped her purse on the floor, and started undressing right there, half provoking, half dismissive. "You know what? I'm going to bed." "Maybe you should learn to lighten up." I didn't argue. I just nodded. Because what do you say to someone who confuses dignity with dullness? When she disappeared into the bedroom, I sat there a long time. The silence returned, thicker this time. Not peaceful, final. At 1 a.m., I grabbed my jacket, wallet, and keys. I didn't slam the door. I closed it gently, almost politely. Maybe part of me hoped she'd hear it and realize something was ending. Maybe part of me wanted her not to notice at all. I drove aimlessly for an hour before checking into a small motel on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. Just 4 walls, a quiet room, and the kind of emptiness that doesn't judge you. I left my phone charging in the glove compartment. I wanted distance, not just from her, but from the version of myself that kept asking for respect like it was a favor. When I finally fell asleep, it was the first rest I'd had in months. No buzzing phone, no apology drafts running in my head. Just quiet. Morning light crept through the cheap curtains, and for a moment I didn't remember where I was. Then it hit me. Freedom always feels confusing at first. I reached for my phone, half expecting nothing. Instead, the screen lit up. 47 missed calls. Mostly from her. A few from Ryan, a couple from unknown numbers. My chest tightened. Not from guilt, just the weight of inevitability. Because when someone finally loses the control they didn't know they had, the other person always panics. I stared at those missed calls for a long time, 47. It wasn't concern that hit me first, it was irony. Because for months I'd been the one calling, the one asking where she was, if she was okay, if we were okay. And now that I finally stopped, suddenly she cared. I didn't open her messages right away. I showered, got dressed, and walked down to the motel's little cafe. The smell of burnt coffee and over-buttered toast filled the air. A waitress named Linda asked if I wanted breakfast. I nodded. It felt good to be spoken to without sarcasm. When I finally checked my phone, her texts flooded the screen. "Ethan, where are you? This isn't funny. Please answer. I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean it like that. You're scaring me. Ryan told me you left right after I said that. Please come home." "Ethan, just text me so I know you're safe." There it was. The apology I'd been chasing for months. But now it didn't feel like a victory. It just felt late, because apologies mean something only when the respect is still alive. Ours had died quietly, somewhere between her laughter and my silence. Around 9 a.m., she called again. I let it ring. Then again, I didn't move. By the fifth call, I picked up not to talk but to end the noise. "Ethan?" Her voice cracked like she'd been crying. "Where the hell are you? I've been calling you all night." I said calmly. "Why didn't you answer?" "Because last night you told me I ruined the fun. I figured you were still having it." There was a pause, the kind that happens when words finally echo back in someone's head. "I didn't mean it like that," she said quietly. "I was drunk." Everyone was laughing. "It was stupid." "I know," I said. "That's the problem. You keep calling disrespect a joke. I keep pretending to laugh." She went silent again, then, "Can you please come home so we can talk?" "Madison," I said, my voice steady. "I don't think home feels like home anymore." She started to cry softly. Real or performative, I couldn't tell anymore. I just knew I'd spent too long being the emotional punching bag of someone who confused attention with love. "Ethan, please," she whispered. "Don't do this." "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I'm finally not doing anything." I ended the call and turned off the phone again. Not out of anger, but peace. Sometimes silence isn't punishment, it's protection. I stayed at that motel for 2 days. Just long enough for the noise to fade. Long enough to hear myself think again. When I finally drove back to the apartment, it felt smaller. Emptier, like it had been waiting for the argument to continue, but I'd canceled the fight. There was a note on the counter. "Ethan, I'm sorry. I overreacted. I'll give you space. I just hope you don't give up on us." Madison, she had packed a few bags. Her perfume still lingered in the air, a scent I used to love. Now just a reminder of how numb I'd become. I sat down on the couch where the silence first started months ago and realized something. Love doesn't die in explosions. It fades in neglected conversations and dismissive jokes, in the way someone looks right through you when they used to look at you. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was just done. That night I made myself dinner, turned on some old records, and ate in peace. No noise, no tension, no performance. Just me, the sound of a fork against a plate, and a strange kind of calm I hadn't felt in years. She texted again later that week. Long paragraphs about how she realized she'd been selfish, how she wanted to fix things, how she missed us. But I didn't reply. Because there's a kind of apology that only arrives when someone realizes their control is gone, and that one never heals anything. It's not love. It's panic. I moved out a month later. New apartment, new rhythm, no echoes of someone else's laughter turning sharp. Sometimes I'd see her posts online. New parties, same smile, same crowd. I'd scroll past without emotion. She once wrote a caption. "Sometimes we don't realize how much someone loved us until they stopped trying." She was right. And I realized something too, sometimes. Leaving isn't the loudest thing you can do. It's just the final proof that you mean what you said. Because when someone tells you you're ruining their fun, they're really saying your peace disrupts their chaos. And that's not love, that's noise disguised as excitement, so I left. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because staying would have meant hurting myself. By the time she finally stopped calling, I'd already started healing. And in the quiet that followed, I found something better than her apology. I found myself again.